The wind came up so hard and it was raining so hard you couldn't hear anything, but it was warm. You could hear the rocks and everything just rolling, and the trees were breaking and crashing. And we were all in bed, and Gary says, "Oh my God, we got to get out of here." And we got out on the porch and it was just pouring. I mean, it wasn't, you couldn't see drops. It was just pouring. It was like you were under a waterfall or something. And I said, "Where are we going to go?" We had 3 babies at our house. We needed food and we needed diapers and other stuff. And so every day the helicopters would come in. They'd lower stuff down on a rope for us, you know. We were there for 10 days. And of course, my parents lived over at Camp Creek and they lost their house.
Transportation is about emergency survival. It's about day-to-day life. This community has experienced intense disruptions to transportation on a regular basis. One really big example of that is the 1964 flood. All of the bridges were taken out. You had a warm rain on snow event in mid-December. And this is the kind of thing that's going to happen increasingly.
People don't think about us in this area. We're kind of forgotten. It does seem annually that the road closes at some point on Highway 96 every year.
Then it was, we all worked together and we all knew each other. Everybody in the Forest Service, we knew them on first name basis, and same with Caltrans. The communication just isn't as personal, I guess, as it was in those days. You don't know who does what anymore. You don't know who to call.
We spend more hours on the road than a lot of people realize. It's very important for us to stay connected to our cultural centers and all of our ceremonies, our gathering.
As far as like utilizing the resources, the cultural and natural resources up there, people think about like, what are the roads going to be like? Are they going to be icy? Are they going to be snowy? Are they going to be full of rocks, or the slides and stuff like that? And for some things, we just go ahead and do it because it needs to be done, and we're not going to not do it.
Roads matter incredibly for people around here. It's very remote, it's very mountainous terrain. Interruptions to travel from landslides, from fire, from snow and ice, and from flooding happen on a really regular basis. And yet, roads maintenance is less in this area. It's a rural region. It's because of the low population size, people don't get their same prioritization. As climate impacts intensify and all of the agencies that are providing services to this region are under increasing stress, regionally, it's going to be even harder.
We need these roads to get to our doctor appointments, to get to our family, to get from Wairika to Orleans. You know, it's 112 miles of travel there, and it's almost all on 96. Years ago, Highway 96 was actually closed up just beyond T-Bar, and then also over at Aikens Creek. And then Salmon River Road was also closed at the same time. So, and then there was snow in the high country. So we were isolated for a good period of time. I think it was a couple weeks, and nobody could get anywhere.
This particular report is generated from a grant through Caltrans. It's been really wonderful to have the opportunity to work with Caltrans folks. This report is unique in that it's the tribe that's leading it, and so there's values, perspectives, information that is not going to be present in other reports. There's a lot of emphasis on return of Indigenous management to the tribe's work in general, a lot of emphasis on fire. It's a very proactive approach. It will hopefully also be useful at creating coordination between Caltrans, Forest Service, and the counties. And hopefully it will be useful for the community.
One of the things that I'd like to see an improvement on is communication between cultural practitioners and Caltrans or county roads, as far as like when they maintain the roadsides. People are doing gathering alongside the roads, and there's a lot of resources in those areas that, because of general road maintenance, get destroyed. I think if there were conversations that there could be like timing issues, it's like, okay, can those ditches be dragged like after this flower blooms, or can we go out and gather this specific thing before you do that activity? Maple, Indian potatoes, ferns, whether it's Woodwardia or Maidenhair.
We've done a community survey and spoken to a lot of people over the phone as well. Like, what are the what are the biggest concerns? And for sure, in this community, the relationship between fire and roads is really significant. A lot of people in this community do not have an alternate access or egress route if their primary one is disrupted.
When the fire in Orleans happened, we drove down the GO road and we could see flames, just coming up. There was not much communication with anybody because everybody's in crisis mode. And so we didn't know if it was going to sweep up the mountain or not. And we would have had to use a back route out of our place to get away from there. And one of them was open, but the other one wasn't at the time. So, some of the time you don't know if the road's going to be open or not to escape from fire. Fire's a real danger now.
Fire it scares me because you look over the hill and all you see is trees down there. That's a lot of dry timber that can burn. That's the only road out of my place, Is there another way to go out, And if there is, how do I get there? It's just kind of important that you know how to get out if you have to.
A lot of people think of colonialism and the violence that happened in the past. There's historical, economic, and political inequality. And then there's a present day lack of understanding of what people's needs are. And all of those things together work with the climate stressor to make for environmental justice issues here and make transportation really an environmental justice issue.
It gets difficult. We've got two jurisdictions. We've got Caltrans District 1, Caltrans District 2, Siskiyou County, Humboldt County, and then two different Forest Service entities. It's just really a lot of communication. We try to communicate, with Caltrans directly. I try to communicate directly with the crew if possible. They've really stepped up with the tribal liaison. They've been great to work with. There's still improvements that need to be made, but they're really doing their best. I think they're really trying.
Humans have been across the landscape since time immemorial. When the Americans and others showed up in this area, how did they go? They used the Indian trails. Where did the Indian trails go? The Indian trails went from community to community and to other places that they would use, all part of their cultural landscape. Now we have our highways, and in many cases, those highways are precisely on the old Indian Trail. So people, get amazed that Highway 96 and 169 downriver, have so many cultural concerns and concern about cultural resources. But the thing is that the highway connects one central place to the next central place. The highway is on these ancient village places.
So the Ikes project, I was approached by Holly, who at that time was working with the tribe still. Caltrans and the Forest Service and the tribe were working on decommissioning a disposal site alongside the highway there, and it's connected to or adjacent to my family's allotment. So they reached out to us and we worked with them to talk about both what would have happened there traditionally and what we would like to see happen there in the future cultural-wise. It's been a rewarding experience to deepen our relationship with folks in all those areas and to see what positive can come out of it when you take the time to develop the relationship, take the time to hear from the people that are concerned and who have an interest in caretaking the land, who feel a responsibility for those spaces. I know we'll see some of it happen, but someday our kids and grandkids and potentially great-grandkids will have another space available for ceremonial and community cultural gatherings. We've had a lot of destruction and we continue to have destruction, but there is a potential to heal.
It's in consultation and collaboration that we determine what the appropriate activities are. Part of the role that I'm playing is to balance out between those cultural resources and then our highway need, and trying to work with people to come up with a solution to where we're not going to be impacting in an adverse way those things of the ancestor, yet making it so that grandma can get to the hospital. There's been cases where if we just shift 5 feet over, then we're going to avoid, the thing that the people care about the most. When I'm working with the tribes, they have a very intimate knowledge of these ancient places, and they know the landscape much better than I do. And that they also are primary customers for the highway. I don't need to try to look to other places for where my idea set come from. They can come from right here.
The Karuk tribe has been here for time immemorial, and it's important that the tribe is noted to be an important player in the game of transportation. I just hope that we can improve the safety of our roads, improve the routes to escape from natural disasters, and make everybody in the community feel safer and like they can trust the network of transportation that we have in our area.
It's important for Caltrans and the tribe to develop relationships with cultural practitioners and community leaders. In view of climate change and all of the impacts that it's been having on our communities, in our regions, including our roads and all of our natural resources, I think that the thing that's always important in my mind is to somehow remain people-centered in your decision-making. I know we have to make decisions on the fly or in emergencies, but I think that that's what's always going to be important. How do we center people's use and access and connection to land?